Wherever you like. Wherever it's fine. Great. Powerful movie. I'm still reeling from it, so it's great. Well, welcome. It's just a thrill to be here with Giancarlo, and what I thought I'd do is just ask him a couple questions first, and then open it up to the floor, certainly. But before I do, I've just got to say, doing research on your career so far, I was just struck by the astonishing variety of mediums that you've worked in, and I just thought for people who don't know, just to give them a few highlights of some of the things you've done in your career. Starting out, you started out as a child in Broadway musicals.
Yes, indeed.
It's funny, I went on the, Googled Maggie Flynn, which was, and there's, I clicked the site, and there's a photo of you when you're like 8 years old with another kid. And it's terrific. It's a Broadway musical with Shirley Jones and
Shirley Jones, Jack Cassidy, Bobby Grant, Irene Cara, David Lindsay, Beverly Ann Bremmers, Florida resident now. Just a really wonderful cast.
And Seesaw, you did the Broadway musical. So I don't know how many people know that you have some of your background is Broadway musical. But let me just read you some of the other credits that Giancarlo's had. From television, series NYPD Blue, The Street, Nash Bridges, Miami Vice, Homicide, of course, which, yes, absolutely. Law and Order, Criminal Minds, Community, Once Upon a Time, Currently Revolution, and, of course, Breaking Bad, which we'll get to in a minute. And some of the films. You've worked with an amazing array of great directors. Well, of course, with Spike Lee several times in Bo Better Blues and Malcolm X and School Days started. And you worked with Coppola in Cotton Club and Abel Ferrara in King of New York and Jarmusch in Night on Earth, Tim Robbins, Bob Roberts, Usual Suspects, of course, Rabbit Hole with John Cameron Mitchell, and Twilight, but not the Twilight with Kristen Stewart and Taylor Lautner. This is the Twilight with Paul Newman, Susan Sarandon, and Gene Hackman, and they don't play vampires. So. But anyway, I just thought it would be important for people to know this variety of different mediums. Let me just ask you, is there any particular medium that you favor more than, or that you approach differently in terms of your shaping a character or performance?
Yeah, I'll say that there's only one first. In life, we have a first impression, and you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. And so my first impressions were in theater, and theater gave me my craft, and it handed me a love for what I do. In the theater, we're very much in a situation like this. We're on stage, and you know whether or not you're communicating or getting through to the back row. Not only am I Italian, but I'm a theater actor. I use my hands, I gesticulate, I try to get it all the way to that back wall. And so that gave me a love of craft. And also, if you think about it, in the theater, you're communicating without ceasing. So it's an unbroken chain, unbroken link. From the time that the curtain goes up, you're on the train or off the train. And if you feel a little bit off or you lose your lines, there's no way to say cut. You have to make it up and keep going. And so theater will always be my first love for that reason. It handed me a craft, and it gave me the ability to, one of the things in theater that's really beautiful for me is that there's a 4-week, 2-week, 3-week, whatever the rehearsal period is, that's your opportunity to do your worst acting school of acting. So you can get it out of your system, so that once there's an audience in the house, you've sort of refined where you think the character or the rhythm of the play or the musical should be. But that's the most interesting time in a play or a musical, because you're finding it, and you're in a period of space and time where you have no one watching except the director or choreographer, and you're able to really work through how the rhythm works and the poetry works. And then once the audience comes in, it changes everything. Because where you thought and expected there might be a laugh, where you thought or expected that there might be some kind of orgasmic reaction to what you're doing, there either is not or there is. And it's that kind of very visceral audience and actor interaction that makes a play or a musical really work. Sometimes there's a laugh where you didn't think it would come, so you don't wait for it, you just keep going, and there's a laugh and it stops you from delivering your next line. Well, that's the magic of theater. And so for theater, for me, developed my character, it developed my tenacity, my courage, it developed my voice, it developed my projection. And so that when I first did my first movie called Taps, I went to Los Angeles. We actually went to Pennsylvania, but there were all these film actors, and it was my first major feature film for 20th Century Fox, and I realized that no one knew their lines. They hadn't developed that muscle. They hadn't developed that voice. And so they would just cut. You know, there was an inanimate object sitting in front of us, which was a whole other way of learning how to sort of act with a machine in between me and you, much like this plant is blocking your face. So I'm going to move it.
Between two ferns.
That's an art form as well, because you have to learn to ignore it, like I've been ignoring that leaf, which is still on the way. And you sort of see through it, because you don't want to look into it. It's trying to capture your essence. But there's one other thing, and it's great I'm talking about Taps, because I went up for an audition for Taps with a wonderful casting director, Shirley Rich, and I think it was in 1980. And I auditioned for it, and Shirley knew me as an actor, and she really liked me. She had come to all my plays, and she looked at me after I did the reading, and she said, Giancarlo, you know I love you. And I knew she was going to drop the bomb. And she said, you really need to learn how to act. And I was crushed, and tears came to my eyes. And then she said, no, let me qualify that. You really need to learn how to act for the camera. Everything you're doing is too big. And I went away and did not get the job. And she said, I suggest to you that you go do more dramatic theater, because I know you've done a lot of musicals, but go do some straight plays. And I went away from there absolutely crushed. I went to the Henry Street Settlement. I did true dramas there. I came back to off-Broadway with the Negro Ensemble Company. I won the Theater World and the Obie Award for a play called Zoom Man and the Sign. And then I get a phone call saying they want you to come audition for this movie called Taps. I said, wait a minute, I auditioned for that. I didn't get it. It was a terrible experience, although it guided me to do my work, which is key, to do your work, not only in your profession but in your lives. You do your work, and when you do your work and you follow that, everything will come, everything will follow. And they said to me, no, the movie never got made. And Shirley Rich wants to see you again. Exactly a year later, I went in to read for her, and it was just her, and I walked in, and I did nothing. I didn't move my hands, and I knew the lines. They gave me 2 pages of sides, we call them, pull them out of the script. I had learned them. Most actors don't. They had them in their hand, they look down, they look up, they look down, they look up. I learned them. And I went in and looked her right in the eye, and I read the lines, and she sat back in her chair in silence when I finished, and she said, Giancarlo, what have you been doing? And I said, Shirley, you know, I've always loved and respected you, so I did what you told me to do. That was at 11 o'clock in the morning. Can you come back at 2 o'clock, read for the producers? I said, I will be here. When I came back at 2 o'clock, there was another actor in the room. Not only one other actor outside who I knew. I said, hello, went into a corner, focused on what I had to do. Walked in the room, there was Stanley Jaffe, Howard Jaffe, his brother, and there was Timothy Hutton. And I read with Timothy Hutton, and I finished the read. I walked out of the room. Stanley Jaffe chased me out of the room and said, would you do this? That was fantastic. And I said, are you kidding me? Would I do this? Yeah, baby. And that was the beginning.
A lot of major actors got their start in that film, too, as well.
There are great stories surrounding that. Tom Cruise did not have the role he had.
Right.
It was a role for Donald Kimmel. I should mention, first of all, that started a relationship with Tim Hutton. I've known Timothy Hutton now for 30 years. He's one of my best friends. I just saw him recently in Austin, because he was shooting a film there. I'm shooting a TV show there. and I got the opportunity to ask him if he would speak for me. I'm getting my star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, April 29th. Yeah! I can't believe it. And Tim is going to say a few words.
Now, you also directed a film, Gospel Hill, with Danny Glover and Angela Bassett. So how did your experience as an actor inform your direction in terms of communicating?
I feel like I have a leg up.
Yeah.
I feel like being an actor, and you know, this film was a great film with Spike, but we all refer to Spike as the coach. He's the coach. You know, Spike loves basketball. He loves sports. He loves baseball now. You know, the day I saw Spike, we always had a running argument. He was always a Mets fan because he loves the underdog. Spike's about the underdog. And I was always a Yankee fan. He was always dog me out. And one day I'm in Yankee Stadium and and I'm way up in the nosebleed seats, and I look down, is that Spike Lee? What? Wait a minute. And is he wearing a Yankee hat? So the first thing I tried to do was find somebody with a camera. You know, get me on the air, man, because Spike and I love each other, been friends for a long time, but we like to rib each other. Yeah. So I just wanted to go on camera and go, wait, is that Spike Lee down there wearing a Yankee hat? Turncoat! Because he was always like, I love the Mets. But he got tired of the Mets losing. So he switched to being a Yankee. So when I saw him, I said, what, you're a Yankee fan now? He said, yeah, man. Yeah. Tried to play it down. Yeah, Giancarlo, man, you know, Yankees are winners. I'm a winner. Yankees are winners. That's how it's like, you know. But I learned a lot from Spike because he directs. He's much more refined now than he was years ago. 25 years since this film was made. And I feel so honored to be sitting here to talk about it. I feel like Spike really opened doors for so many artists, black and white and Asian. It was just about independent film. And he was the one who, what did he do? He showed us self-expression. Show enough, you dig. Like, what was that? Like, what are you talking about, man? Like 40 Acres and a Mule, show enough, you dig? I'm like, yeah, I dig. I got it. Okay, cool. He reminds me of, like, today, the RZA, Wu-Tang Clan. It's like a different language. You know, you can't understand the RZA. I finished a movie, I did a movie with RZA, and he says to me, I'll see you at the shizzle. I said, what, huh? I'll see you at the shizzle, brother. The shizzle, the Shazam, you know, the shizzle. You know, the sparkle, the shizzle. Oh, you mean the opening night? Oh, I got it. But so to answer your question, being an actor who's paid attention, another thing in life, you know, especially now, like we got all of our electronics. So the first thing I did before I came up here was to turn off my electrical charge so that my own electrical charge could sort of charge and be in line with you so that there's nothing beeping in my pocket. There's nothing. We're 90% energy. We're electrical beings. And when you always have an electrical charge in your hand or on you, it affects your energy. Believe it or not. It sort of like interferes with your energy. So I didn't glitch out. I turned mine off. It could be on silent, yeah, but it would be sort of maybe getting my attention. And I'm very in tune to lights, to electricity. And you should be as well because it affects your energy. And it's really important to sort of understand that. But as an actor, I paid attention. You know, like I would ask, what lens are you on? Where are you? Are you on a 25, a 75? What are you catching? So I knew, and that came from my experience of being told that I was too big and I needed to learn how to act. So information is power. What are you shooting? What are you on over there shooting me? Oh, you're on a wide shot, so I'm like a little speck. Or do you have a zoom lens? Are you right up my nose? So I know how much to give or not give. So as a director actor, I focus on the word because I believe the spoken word is very important. Many Hollywood actors, if they couldn't remember the lines, would change the lines. But you see, I do Tennessee Williams. I do Shakespeare. I do Brecht. There's no change in that. Yeah, you know what I mean? You can't alter that. I can't make that better. I could fudge it if I'm in a jam. But, you know, speaking Old English, that's how you develop craft. You develop memory. You develop, you know, by paragraph, you do your layers and your blocks of learning. And it develops strength of the brain, of your intellect. And it allows you to fire quicker, faster, and to see it. I'm visual. You got to figure these things out. Are you visual? Are you tactile? What are you? Are you auditory? What is the nature of you? And that helps you in life. Because you know when you're in a conversation sometimes and you're just looking at somebody, but you're not really there, you like totally, because their voice maybe doesn't come into your energy, doesn't match you. They may be a little slower energy than you. And so you're trying to pretend like you're digging it and you're getting what they're saying, but you're like 1,000 miles away. You know what I mean? You're 1,000 miles away. So there's something to be said about trying to train yourself to be present. So this presence, where does it come from? It comes from listening to your own breath. It comes from the space. So when I allow myself to hear the air conditioner behind me, the giggle in the audience, this is training yourself to be right here, right now. Nothing else getting your attention. In that presence is an honoring of you. It's an honoring of your attention. It's giving yourself the space to take someone else in. And that's honoring who you are and who we all are and the connective tissue that's between us. So for me, being an actor-director, I learned that I had an inside to how actors work. Spike would always ask me, how do you talk to actors? I don't know. I taught at Columbia last season. I taught a whole semester to directors about how to direct actors so that they had a language, a nomenclature, a music. It's like reading music. It's a different language. Learning a language. It's different words. Everything is different. But you can learn that. And you can also learn or relearn, deprogram from the world that we're in that demands and allows you to believe and to think that ultimately you're a multitasker. I got news for you, baby. There's nothing wrong with saying, I'm not a multitasker. Could I try it? Could I do it? Could I be halfway successful at paying attention to you and texting? Yeah, I look at my 17-year-old. She can go like this. She can flip that sucker out and be talking to me and just like bum 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 ba 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 ba. Right? And she's pretending she's giving me her attention. But she's actually done two things at once. Yeah, we could do it, but I always say, I maintain that you've only done one thing halfway. And so when you try to do something fully and put your whole being to it, like my paying attention to what kind of lenses, my being able to understand material, which has helped me to really look at actors in a different way. It gives them confidence that I'm not just trying to do something visually beautiful, but that I'm also relying on their organic personality to deliver what I need. Forget what I need, what the story needs, what is demanded, what is asked of, for all of us to create and tell a great story. You can't, that's not half-stepping. You can't half-step through that. That's important, because in the end, what we're all trying to do, no matter what you do, if you're an actor, a poet, a writer, a director, a garbage man in community service, a politician, I believe that whatever that is, you are a connector. You are moving up the human spirit, doing a task that you hopefully love. And that is how communities start to really work. So I'm only using the analogy from my life in directing actors and through your question to spread it out to all walks of life. Yes, we'll be known for the moving image, but what is beyond it? What is the integrity, the courage and tenacity that allows someone to do this crazy thing? What is that? How does that affect your lives, no matter what you do? What impression does that make on your integrity to create a community that uses this entertainment as something that furthers every particle of this community, every piece of it? It's being connected. And that's what people want. People, we deserve it, we need it, we love it. It becomes what? It becomes selfless service. And it's for the whole. So we talk about the me and the I. You know, everyone says to me, you had all the success, and I laugh. I said this earlier. This is like my third rise to stardom. Man, I'm over it, man. I ain't got no Mercedes-Benz. I ain't got no bodyguard. I still travel in coach. I'm over this shit.
If we could just go back to this amazing film we just saw, what was the mood like on the set? I mean, it's a very provocative movie, and was there a sense that you were making something, classic, or were there submerged feelings? What was going on in terms
This was a great film in how we felt about it. We didn't know where we were going to shoot it. Spike was so very committed. We wound up, in Brooklyn on a block that was completely a mess, burnt out, a crack house on the block, two families that lived on the block. We cleaned out all the crack houses. We finally got the last one off the block. And then now what do? We're in this block that's an absolute mess. And then we transform it into being a set. So it felt very much like we were on a Hollywood set, but we were really in it. Like, and we were shooting at night, and we're hearing gunfire, all this other stuff. But we had good, decent security. But you never feel like, if you feel like you're doing something amazing, then you probably aren't. Because that's a lot of ego going on. You probably wish you were, oh man, this stuff is fantastic. Yeah, it's probably a piece of crap. But, but if you feel excited that you don't know what's happening, and that something's happening, but you can't really put your finger on it, like it's something, it's just, you're in it. So it's like me being on stage, or even in a take when I'm working. If I feel, the director always looks at me, because now I realize either people are deferential to me, and I laugh, because I still feel like a kid. I still feel like that guy, Do the Right Thing, is 25 years ago. But if I feel like I don't know, the director will look at me and, how did you feel? And I go, I don't know. And he said, well, what do you think? You want another one? I say, no. If I don't know, that's where I want to be. I don't want to know. Because that means I stepped out of my body. That means if I don't know, I wasn't watching. Like, in truth, when you do something, somebody comes up to you and they're moved emotionally and they're having a hard time, and you're not the kind of person that ever goes out of pocket because you believe that people should get for themselves, and all of a sudden you find yourself giving somebody some bread, and then they're gone, and you've been moved inside, and they have, and you go home to your husband or your wife, you go, I did something really out of character today. I gave somebody like $500. Honey, why the hell you do that? And I don't know. It was just I had to do it. I don't know why. That's where the juice is. Like, that's where it lives. That's where the divine nature of who we are really is. That's where the in-service place is. So being in service to that. So we didn't know. Like, it was exciting. Was it fun? Yeah, there was a great feeling. A number of us moved to Brooklyn. Like, that was so weird for me to move. But why was it weird? When I go on a Hollywood set and they're shooting in a different location, they put me up. The only difference was Spike wasn't putting me up. Spike was a cheap bastard. So me and Roger, only a few of us, me, Roger Guinevere Smith, we were so committed. We loved Spike so much. We loved the material so much that we just moved. We didn't care. I was like, I'll live in Brooklyn. I don't care. Because it was just easy to be there. It was too much of a hassle to get there. But we knew there was some magic happening, but then we didn't know. And then there were days we were disappointed. We didn't get our shots, and days where it was really great. And we just went, we're just in it. And if you're so in it, then you really can't judge it. And then that is the place to be, because then you're serving up and honoring the words. Then you're serving up and honoring the other actors. And it doesn't matter if it's a hit, a flop, or whatever it is. You've done your best to make it a great experience for all involved and yourself.
Okay, before we open it up, I have to... I have to ask you about Gus. You're probably tired of talking about it, but I've got to ask because people want to know. I want to know. Probably the greatest villain in TV history. And for those of you who know Gus, I'm sure most of you do, you'll realize what a remarkable actor we have to see the last 20 minutes of total animation as opposed to the fascination of the Gus character, who's very kind of low-key and repressed in his evil. But one of the great mysteries of that character that's been written about and talked about that's never really been discussed, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it, was Gus's sexuality. Can you talk to that?
Be very careful when you talk about Gus.
I love that this comes up, and I loved it when it came up originally. I loved it when it was, put out there subtly through Vincent's writing, and then never answered. Gus was a very complicated guy. And one of the great moments of the show for me was having dinner with Walt when they asked me for pictures of my kids. And I want to protect my family. I have four girls. I don't live with them. We're all very close. And they asked me for photos to put on the wall, and they said, look, we're not going to show them in close-up, but we want to leave room that maybe Gus might have a family, so Vince would like to be able to cultivate that later if possible, if he needed to. And I said, okay. And I was excited because once you get your own family, you're on a series for a while. Just like, you know what I mean? Gives you a little job security, you know? They're hiring other actors around you. It's good. That didn't happen, but once they made the meth lab, you know, that meth lab had to have cost them $500,000 to just get that. It was all real. The sexuality question I thought was brilliant because it really allowed people to open up their heads surrounding how they felt about a character that they may have started to like, which somewhere in season 4 people started to root for Gus. They started to like Gus. But what does that change for them if he's a gay man, right? So it makes you think about not only Gus, but about who you are, what your judgments are about people, how that changes your trip that you go through. I can tell you how I feel about it. I feel like the success of Gus for me was, and you talk about him being evil, but in actuality, and there's a great article online by a psychologist about who was the better teacher. You'll look it up, you'll find it. Was it Gus or was it Walter? Who was the better teacher in terms of morality for Jesse? And if you look it up, you'll find it. My phone's off, so I can't read it to you, but here's my take on it. The only reason Gus took Victor out in 401, you know, it may have seemed evil to many people, it was because he compromised the family. Victor was seen. And, you know, Gus had a laundry of poor people who worked for him. He had all of these chicken places. He had the meth stuff going. He was about people. And it goes, and I say this because in terms of Gale and all the chemists that he hired, he wanted Walt to fall in line with them. But Walt wanted to be a badass, right? But he was cultivating people, allowing them to Max. This is what was the revenge thing that eventually came up that destroyed Gus, was because of Max. Max he found on the streets of El Salvador, and he took this kid who had a desire for something, and he provided the means for this young man to go to school for chemistry, become a great cook, and then he sets up a business for them to be successful. So you make the judgment. Do you think a man who cared so much about people would then take a student and abuse him? I don't think so, for my money, because Gus was upstanding. He was someone who respected humanity, supported humanity. So if he was gay, he wasn't gay with Max. But that love can be very misconstrued because we have a very seriously screwed up attitude about sexuality in America. We do. All right, so I'm from Italy. I'm from Naples, Italy, if you didn't know. Born in Copenhagen, raised to an Italian father and an African-American mother. And I don't think there was ever a time I didn't kiss my father directly on his lips. Ever. He's gone now. Giovanni, I love you. He took the sting out of, like, we're so freaked out about kissing another man or a woman kissing a woman. It's like it's all weird here. My father would grab me, Giancarlo, I would, mwah, right? But even with that, I had 4 girls. I'll never forget, before my father left this planet, he looked at me and said, Giancarlo, I have to talk to you. Let me talk to you, okay? So listen, I don't know how to say this, but you know, you have your 4 daughters, right? And I know you're very, very affectionate, and I all my life I've been affectionate with you. It's very good to be that way. But you know, so your daughter now, your eldest, she's 14 years old. So you don't never kiss on the lips. Don't kiss on the lips. And I said, Papa, I know. I kiss you on the lips. It's a different. You have a girls. Don't kiss them. And she's 14 now. That's it. You don't kiss her on the lips. And I said, you know, I understand. I totally get it. I got a 10-year-old now who is the sultriest, temptress. She's coming to live with me in September. She looks at me, hi, Papa. She's 10. She walks up to me, kisses me right on the lips, and she likes to suck on my cheek. She says, I love your dimples. I said, you're a freak, man. I said, okay, you got one more year of this, and I'm cutting you off. But to answer your question, I really believe, we don't know. I think it's really interesting that we don't really know, because we want to be able to judge each other. We want to be able to know so that we don't feel threatened. So what's wrong with not knowing? Is there a problem with that? Is there the mystery too great for us?
What about, but you as an actor, when you're playing that part in your mind, don't you have a take on it?
Yeah, he was never gay to me.
Okay.
No, I was hoping for a family. I admired Max, and the day we were shooting that scene, the Revenge for Donny Eladio, when he gets killed, we're laying by the pool, and we're face to face. And that actor was so good. He was really, really a lovely human being. And he admired me, and I admired his work. And I'm laying there, and I'm down, I'm crying, and he's laying there dead, and his eyes are wide open. And you know what he said to me? We got up off the ground. He went, oh, my God, man, is that gold in your mouth, man? He said, that shit is bitching. He said, he's staring in my mouth. And so I got this whole conversation. I said, yeah, I took all the silver out of my mouth. He said, man, that's so sexy, man. He's like, yeah, I got all this. And he was straight. He had a girlfriend and everything. He was like, oh, shit, man. Was that for the role? You do that for the role? Or you do that, man? I believe that Gus was a straight arrow. I believe that Gus was probably, in many, many ways, had not found his partner and was fulfilling a lot of stuff by supplying a way for a lot of people. A lot of us get involved in work and we don't find our proper match, and we let it go, until that comes along. But I don't believe he was gay. But you know what? I really like that he could be. You know what Chaz Palminteri says to me? He says to me, man, you're metrosexual. That's what you will ask him. Man, what are you saying to me, Chaz? What is that, man? What the hell is that? He says, you're a metro, man. I'm a metro too. Don't worry. It's okay, Giancarlo. I know I'm Italian like you, but it's okay. Don't get all upset. Don't get your panties in the water. I'm a metro too. So, but I never played him like he was gay.
All right, questions. Yes, in the back.
Are you a good guy or a bad guy in Revolution?
Well, this is something that started with Gus, and just that the one kernel of that has extended to some of my work. I believe, and it's also an extension of my own self-investigation. We all have the ability, many of us have the ability to be good and do bad things. And on Revolution, honestly, underneath my Tom Neville character, he's a good man. I mean, if you go back to episode 105, mild-mannered insurance adjuster who got crushed by his boss, who had no backbone, no spine, no balls, who eventually morphed into Tom Neville, that's a guy who learned to survive. That's a guy who learned not to make a mistake, not to take a second, pull the trigger, kill it, get it done. And so Tom Neville became that. That's what I'm talking about, our conditioning in life. What do we pay attention to? Pay attention to advertising. Pay attention to what we see in film. All very good to be entertained, but it's good to also know where you stand in that. So I feel like there is no black or white. It's very kind of gray sometimes. But I do make a decision about all my characters somewhere down the line. I think that Tom Neville, underneath it, is a good guy. I believe it wholeheartedly, that underneath what he's doing on this show is goodness. He wants to, in a way, save the world. However, look, you look to be around my commensurate age, right? Somewhere along the line, I've spent my whole life trying to save people. I got an 87-year-old mother who was a great talent who dropped out of life 40 years ago. God bless her. That was her choice. I'm still trying to save her. And all of a sudden, I wake up one day and I go, you're not Jesus Christ. You aren't, you have some connection and you really have a desire. You're a seeker for the divine, goddess, God, goddess. You believe that that divine lives in people. I believe that God lives within you as you. So then, am I destined to save people? Or do people want to be saved? Had a girlfriend a year ago who said to me, I don't want your help. I had spent 5 years trying to help this bitch. I mean, it was the wake-up call of all wake-up calls. I was like, oh, wow. I was crushed. My ego was just crushed. So there you go. You know, Tom Neville is that kind of guy. He wants to try to make it right now. He is good underneath. But you know what? Some of us can't save the world. And sometimes some people's worlds don't want to be saved. So it's like a flower. Think of it this way. It's like a flower, a rose. There's a couple of roses, and one opens. And it's just open and beautiful, and you can smell it and see it. There's another one that's partially open. Another one yet still is completely closed. All off the same little branch. That's where we're at. We all come to it at different times in our lives, at different places in our lives. So, you know, I also learned that until I got right, I couldn't offer anybody advice. I can't help nobody until I feel like I'm straight. And so Tom is a good cat, though. He's a good cat.
Yes, way back.
Can you talk about how this film and your relationship with Spike Lee led to that great role in School Days? I still love that movie. I'll probably go home and watch that tonight.
School Days was before Do the Right Thing.
Really?
Yeah, School Days was before Do the Right Thing.
First, that question, how did that one lead to this one?
Yeah, he's quick. I like it. I was doing a play in New York called Zoom Man and the Sign. I had been nominated for a couple of awards and won the Obie and Theater World Award for it. Spike came to see it early on. It was a play, by the way, by Charles Fuller, who won a number of awards, of the Pulitzer Prize, actually, for Soldier Story after it. Yeah. And cheers for Charles. Charles is a great writer. And as Spike just was cleaning films at Maxie Cohen's, when films were run through a machine with little white gloves, he'd let it run through and clean the films. And he came to see me and he asked me to do School Days. He had given it to me. It was a complete musical. It was very convoluted about a black college. I said, Spike, I love it, I'll do it. We went down and shot the homecoming parade and day at Morehouse College where he had gone. Then he gave the script to them and they declined to let him shoot it there. He fixed the script out of advice from myself and Lawrence Fishburne, and it never got made to begin with as that full-on musical. He cut down the music and made Madame Riri's beauty salon, and long and the short of it is he got permission then to shoot it there, and we made that movie. But it was through a personal experience of him coming to me and saying, like I get every day. I get this all the time. People call me, they send me stuff that's half-baked and not really there, and they want me to put my name on it to help them make it. And Spike was sort of in that position, but Spike was kind of brilliant. He wasn't begging or asking. He said, I love you. I want you to do this. I'm going to make it happen. So it did eventually happen, and that's what led to this all these years with Spike. Recently, I was at the Academy Awards Vanity Fair party, and it was so nice to see Spike there. We had fallen out a few years ago, and then kind of made up on the set of where we shot Do the Right Thing for the EW interview, Entertainment Weekly, about a year ago. But I had done a play in New York, and I got interviewed, and I got misquoted by the writer of the New York Times, and Spike called me and said, hey man, you just called me a racist in the New York Times? And I said, well, I think I was misquoted, but you know you were racist anyway, so. And Spike cursed me out for 45 minutes. And I held the phone like a fool. Giancarlo, come on. I mean, it was just crazy. And I said, Spike, you know, look, I didn't say those words, but you know how I feel about you. I love you. I feel, and I was talking about 25 years ago when you didn't have one white person on your set, and now you have a white producer. I said, look, I was talking about how you'd grown. He completely misread the quote anyhow. I was talking about how far you've come. I've never been a racist. First of all, black people can't be racist because it's economic. It's economic. He just went on and on and on. I said, Spike, come on. You're going to tell me that you never said to me you didn't like white people, that you always just love white folks? I mean, this guy, so there was 6 months where I was like, and he always said to me on the phone, we're done. We're done. You hear me? It's over. We're done. And I was like, Spike, I love you. No, we're done. Spike, I love you. No, you can't love me. You're done. And it was 6 months, and I went, that's over, you know? And I said, well, I told the truth, you know? And so I got a call to go do this shoot, on the block, all these years later. We shot it like 3 months ago, and I had a couple of my kids with me shooting on somewhere, and 2 of my girls came, and I walked onto the set. I had no idea we were going back to the block. I thought we were going to a soundstage or studio, and Bill Nunn was Bill's been a little bit sick with some cancer. He was in a limousine waiting. A lot of the cast were there. Turturro didn't make it. Roger didn't make it. But I said yes right away because, Spike is a buddy of mine. I don't care if he called me and cursed me out. I didn't care. I said, because that's how friends are. We've had other disagreements. I don't care. I walked onto that set. Spike is walking down the block just like Mookie, like Spike walks, And everything went away. He walked right to me. Giancarlo, we good? I'm looking at him. We good? We good, right? I'm good. You good? I'm like, I'm good. Good. Done. Behind us. And that was it. And I think that's beautiful, I mean, it's like I got tears in my eyes because I said, man, he has always been that kind of deep friend. And it was so beautiful that the first thing, got it out of the way. I'm sorry, boom, done, delivered, done. So when I saw him 4 weeks ago, it was really, really beautiful. On Twitter is a shot of me, him, and Sam at the Vanity Fair party, and it was just all love. And he looked at me and said, when you finish Revolution? I said, why? Because, school days 2. So there you go. You never know. You might see it school days too. So I said, April, May. Okay, bet. I got it.
Great. Okay. Yes.
One, because I wanted to know on the set of this movie, Do the Right Thing, everyone plays one character, but their backgrounds may be totally different. And I wanted to ask if your background between other actors, if it gave you more insight into the other characters and not just your own character. And I also have another odd question about, you did an interview a long time ago, and I forgot what you said. You mentioned that your mom had danced with Josephine Baker, and I thought I loved the story, and I forgot the story. And I really wanted you to speak about that again.
Do the Right Thing was really special for me in so many ways. I felt like I had an insight into it. Spike, many years ago, kind of honored me and also insulted me and crushed me in such a big way. So, we had Lanana McKee in one of the movies. I think it was Malcolm X, and Spike really liked her. She was a high yellow African-American gal, married to a white boy. And Spike would always say it just like that, you married to a white boy. And, by the time we finished the movie, Lynette was divorced from this really lovely man. And I looked and I went, why? Why'd you let Spike twist your head up like that? Put you in that race consciousness? And, he would look at me and he said to me, Giancarlo, you're Afro-European. And I said, yeah, man, what else? I mean, yes, born in Copenhagen, raised in Italy, man, what else, But when I come here, I'm treated just like you, brother, so it don't make no difference. You know what I mean? So it was interesting for me. It was the perfect movie for me to be in. And I was really proud of it. And then my father went to see it, and I was so proud of it because it was my Italian heritage and my African-American heritage. But it was much like when I came to America and I eventually went to an all-Italian and all-black high school. No one wanted me. Like the Italians, Ronnie Carbone, God rest his soul, biggest dude in the school, would look at me and was like, man, you ain't Italian, man. Who are you? And Ronnie would terrorize me. And I would look at him and go, man, my name is Giancarlo Giuseppe Alessandro Esposito. You Ronnie Carbone. You don't even say it right. He used to get pissed at me. He say, come on. And I stood my ground against this giant. Because I was always proud of both sides of me. And I wasn't going to be forced to deny either one. It's like, you're not going to force me to deny either one. And so it was the same thing with Spike. That's what our rub was. So when I did the movie, I was so happy because it was like portraying the essence of who I am, even though I'm on the black side because, this is they call me black, but my skin's kind of cocoa brown, right? You know what I mean? I'm all about my blackness, and Spike taught me, and I learned so much about Malcolm. I knew so much about Martin, and I learned, and learned and respect all of our heritage, and I put that forth because that's part of me. But there's another part of me I'm not going to deny for that, and that's where we go wrong. You know, I'm going to stand up for all that is me because, again, the important thing about each and every one of us is that there's no blueprint. No one is like you. Like, that's the amazing thing about this universe. Like, every single one of us has a different imprint and signature. And when we stand up for that, it makes us all strong across all barriers. So, it was special for me. The day my father came to see the movie, it was reduced for him. Here's this man in a broken Italian accent, Spike, Giovanni, my father. It's my papa. Hey, Spike, good to see you, good to see you. And Spike looked at him, he pulled me and said, Giancarlo. I said, you like the movie? Giancarlo. And at that time he was teaching school. There's so much cursing in the movie. It's a fuck this, a fuck that, a motherfucker this, a motherfucker that. That was his rub, and he hated the movie. Hey, motherfucker nigga this, motherfucker nigga that. I said, and he just couldn't get around that. So, you know, but for me, it was the triumph of my life, this movie. It really was, down to everything I did in it and how I had to create this character. So I loved it, and I so respect Spike for it. I think it's just the most amazing thing. And again, you have to realize what it was going on in America at the time. It really served us up, and we really needed it in terms of, I became a filmmaker by observing Spike. Years after Spike, I made my first film. I waited for the right material and finally did it. Josephine Baker story. My mother performed with Josephine Baker in Kern, Denmark. That's why I was born in Copenhagen, and that's why I'm the oddball in the family who was not born in Italy. My mother was performing with Josephine in Kern, doing a supper club act. And she was 9 months pregnant, 8 months pregnant, 7 months pregnant, 7.5 months pregnant, and she stopped performing. Yeah, I know, I'm trying to get it right. I'm old, shit. She's laughing. Yeah, she's trying to, I wasn't really there. Yeah, that's right, I was somewhere in there. So she had these big hoop dresses made so she could sing up until a certain time without being, you know, pregnant detected. And so she was performing there with Josephine. Years later, I was in Toronto. You may have heard this story. This may be the story you're referring to. And I was doing a Broadway show, and I was 13 years old. And it was one of the last shows that I did with my mother accompanying me. And we were in the lobby of the King Edward Hotel performing at the it was then the O'Keefe Center for you, Canadians. It's now the Hummingbird Center. And we were at the King Edward Hotel, and we came in the lobby, and all of a sudden I'm advancing my mother to open a door for her, and I hear, oh my God, girl, oh my God, oh, Liz, Josephine, screaming, hollering, you know, all kind of drama kaflama, because that's how we are. And they hug, and they're getting ready to hug, and all of a sudden, no, watch my nails, girl, watch my nails, let's have my nails done. Don't be hugging on my nails. So they were talking, and Josephine was performing a nightclub act there, a supper club act, at the King Edward. And they said hi, introduced me. I looked into the eyes of this most beautiful, gorgeous woman I had ever seen. She had to be like 70, however. She was an older woman then, but she was absolutely beautiful. And she said, come to my show tonight to my mom. And we went upstairs, and my mother sent me out to the florist and said, go buy one rose. Now, look, you know, I'm young, a young man, but I'm old school. You buy a dozen roses if you buy a rose. And she said, no, buy one rose. I said, Mommy, buy one rose. Okay. Bought one rose, came back. Why? I'm not telling you. Take the rose, wrap it up, go down for the supper club act. And Josephine is on the stage, and she breaks into La Bien Rose. And 4 words into the first stanza, my mother says, go. And I'm like, and I'm shaking like a leaf. She says, go. And there are 4 steps up to the stage, just like here. And she just puts her hand on my back and pushes me. And here I am walking up to the stage with this rose. And to hand it to Josephine. And I get to the bottom of the steps. Here I am, all right, I'm walking up. I get here, and she reaches for the rose, and she takes my wrist, and she pulls me on the stage. And I'm looking at her with this rose in my hand, and she sings the next verse to me. Now, I am a pool on the floor. I had totally melted, and she finishes that verse, and she says, now go on back to your mama. Oh my gosh, the most amazing woman ever. That may be the story.
I just want to go back to what you were talking about a minute ago. Do you find you're being offered more roles now that are non-race specific?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. In Hollywood, you are what you've just done. So up for a movie recently, which I believe I'm going to make a deal for, a really big Hollywood movie. It's been a number of years since I did a big Hollywood movie. Pray it works out. We'll see what happens. I won't say what it is, but I will say that you have to be approved. So in an independent film, you can know the filmmaker, and he calls you and says, and I get all my calls, they just call me and say, hey, will you do my movie? And that's what I love. With a Hollywood film or a film that's, a couple of $100 million or whatever it is, you have to get approved by the studio. Like, your name comes up, and then there's 15 people who say, no, he's wearing an orange shirt, he ain't gonna get it. No, wait a minute. Yeah, he's a good actor, but he ain't acted in 5 years. No, he ain't gonna get it. Or whatever the reason is. Teeth too big, too dark, too light, too this, too that. So guess what came up this time? He's Spanish. Breaking Bad has messed some folks up. He's totally straight up Spanish. He ain't a black man. He's Spanish. And so my people had to say, he's not Gus Fring. He's just not Gus Fring. Go back to do the right thing. Go back to this. Go back to that. That's not who he is. But if you want to think he's Spanish, you can. So all that happens. But yes, I'm always very careful. I love what I do so much that there's a balance between the economics of it, and it is show business, which I've learned. But I'm more now inclined to make my own films. I'm about to produce and direct a film about the abolitionist John Brown. I'm excited about that. A man who did a really great thing by putting his life on the line for us to free the slaves. And that he was a very religious man, a Calvinist, so I relate to that. He was also a white man from the North. And people just don't know his story because it's been buried by American history. It's there, but they don't want to champion his story because John Brown's Body, which, by the way, is the battle hymn of the Republic. We'll take what's good, what we think is good, what we judge to be good, and we'll throw out the rest. But the man really changed our history, and I know how much I thought of Lincoln, not to be in comparison, but it was really John Brown that started the Civil War. It was really John Brown's ethics that changed the world, and no one really knows that, and he needs to be served up. So I'm trying to do that, but there are more things coming my way. It's still always just the struggle to allow people to think that you're an actor. People think I'm Gus Fring, and there is part of me that's Gus Fring. I could drop into Gus like that because there's a part of me that obviously that made the decisions and the choices to create him. I gave myself a task to do nothing, to allow my eyes to speak, to allow myself to bubble up from the inside, to be in judgment of people in a very non-judgmental way. I can be very scary as an actor, as a human being even. A lot of people can be, but I drop into that dark place that just gives that look that saved my life many times in my life. It's been that Gus look before the Gus look ever got on screen, because I'm a survivor, and I've been in situations where I've been threatened, and something just clicks, and I don't make a move. I'll give it. I'll give that animal. It's an animal. We're animals. We have that piece of us that still is that, and I can tap into that being an actor and take off all the masks and allow people to be very afraid without hurting them, and it saved my life. I can tell you over and over again in situations where I was surrounded once by 15 years old by 6 white guys, and I was afraid, but I knew I could not run. And they were, in it, seconds away from taking me out. And I looked at these guys and I said, okay. I dropped really, really deep. I said, number one, before you might get me, but I'll take at least 3 of you with me. And I will take the heart out of your chest and show it to you before you die. And they looked at me. I said, yeah, I will pull your heart out of your fucking chest and show it to you before you drop. And your boys may get me, but I got you. And they looked at me half like, oh, is he for real? And the other half was, this is a crazy motherfucker. Let's get out of here.
It's got to be a trade-off, though, that you create such an indelible, powerful character as Gus, but then it stays with you throughout the...
It does. I have to tell you, I was walking last year. Denzel Washington, who is a dear friend, who looked at me recently and said, man, we've known each other. Do you know we've known each other 30 years? I mean, it's like, old time friends. And he said this to me, but he was doing a play a couple of years ago on Broadway, and then Kenny Leon play, and then Sam was doing another wonderful play directed by Kenny Leon. But I was walking to a voiceover audition down that street, and they were on break, and a bunch of folks were on the sidewalk, and I had a suit on, and I often wear a tie. God forbid I didn't forget my tie tonight, huh? It's for Renee. Where's Renee? Where's Renee? She's out there somewhere. So they stopped me, and they were going on about Breaking Bad, and a lot of African-American folks I know came to Breaking Bad a little bit late. And so that I let them just serve me up on the sidewalk. All the stage technicians, they were back there going, whoa, man. You know what I mean? They loved it, and they were giving me props. And I said, tell Kenny I say hello. Denzel, I have to go. And I literally was, just rapping to them on the sidewalk, like people I knew. And I walked away from them. I was like, I got to go. And they were like, yeah, man, just keep doing it. And I walked away, and I went like this, started buttoning it. And I had to stop. And I went, no, that didn't. This is like 6 months after I had finished. I went, no, wait a minute. That didn't just happen. And I stood there and I busted out laughing. I said, Gus, leave me alone now. Get away. It's, we all have muscle memory. It's good to create good habits and good memory because we remember things. And I think acting is physical. I think when I teach acting, I tell my acting students that it's a physical endeavor, not only your voice and your spirit and your body and your words, but it's also physical. It's visceral. You have to feel it, and that leads me to a story about James Garner, who I think he is a great actor, and I don't know how long he'll be with us, but James and I did a film together, and obviously many people know him from Rockford Files, but he did some great movies before that. But he said to me, your body doesn't know the difference. And he planted the seed for me to learn how to take care of myself as an actor. And I went, oh. He said, so when you're cutting somebody's throat, screaming at somebody, in an argument with your wife on camera, that becomes inside of you. Like your body feels that. You're doing that. Your body doesn't know you're just playing. Your body thinks it's real. I did a play called Zoom Man and the Sign where I, kill this person on stage through a door. I'm talking, justifying what happened and how it happened. All my stuff is in monologue. And it took me an hour and a half to come down every night. One night there was a social worker outside. They told me you can't go outside. There's a social worker in the lobby. She's crying. She wants to kill you. She deals with 17-year-old kids like you all the time, dope dealers. She wants to murder you. And I had won 3 awards for this play. It was just an amazing piece that I did. But it was always like this afterwards. I had to come off stage and sort of just sit there dumbfounded because it was just my body and everything was so amped up. And when James told me this years after this, I realized what he meant was give yourself the time to come down, to relax, to shake that out of your body so that you don't damage yourself. I used to think, let me just do whatever I can for my art. I love it so much, but you're not supposed to get hurt. The famous story of Laurence Olivier and Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah.
It's acting, my boy. He stays up all night. He's all tired. He can hardly keep his eyes open. He's dying. And Olivier's looking at him like, what's the matter? It's like he's thinking he did the ultimate preparation. And Laurence Olivier, who's such a great actor, he says it's acting, my boy. Why are you killing yourself? But it's interesting. You find your level and your balance as an actor.
In the back, yes.
I have just one question. You've had a long and wide-ranging career. Is there one role that you're still waiting to get?
Oh my goodness, where are you? Who was that? That was the voice of God. I love it. Yeah, there are many roles. I want to be able to. I always feel like the role I'm doing right now is the role that I'm most present with and the most important role of my career in my life. But there are some historical figures I'd like to play. I always wanted to play Martin Luther King. I don't know that I look very much like him, but I always really believe that he was in service to humanity. I want to play another really great human being, I think, Pushkin, that many people don't know about, a Russian poet. I think Pushkin would be an incredible role for me to play. So there's still a lot of desires I have to be able to play some really, really incredible Americans. I know that somewhere inside of me, down the road, I think that I would really love the opportunity to play Barack Obama. He's had a rough way to go, and his won't be one of the most successful presidencies on record. But I feel like he was a man who stood in the fire to show all of us that there's an opening for any human being to be able to lead and guide us with intelligence, no matter what color. I feel like he's an amazing human being to me. So I'd like the opportunity to portray him and stand in that fire. But there are many different characters. I can't name them all that I still would love to be able to bring to life. More characters, and it goes back to your wonderful question. Am I finding that I'm being offered more? Well, today I think we're in a place where story has taken a backseat. The golden age of television has re-arrived, but film is still, it's still now become a blockbuster medium. So I think if those roles that I really desire to play, I'll have to create them for myself.
Yep, right down in front.
Do you think that if Gus would have let Walt alone, if Walt hadn't gone after him, and what was the set like in Breaking Bad as an actor? Like, what was it like in terms of casual, laid back, or how did Vince Gilligan sort of like work with you as actors?
Well, Vince wasn't there on the set. Vince lives in California and wrote from there. He would come once or twice a year. So the way it kind of works is you have your writing team. It's such a weird thing. It's very odd to me. It's just like doing a play. We spend, I don't know, at the theater company I belong to, the Atlantic Theater Company, we spend $500,000 to put on a play, right? Maybe a little less, and we rehearse for 6 weeks, and we put the play up. So we spent, $200 million making a movie, and you don't rehearse. Like, what isn't that a little odd to you? Just come show up for the first day of shooting. Let's spend a couple of million, but you never rehearse. For Spike, we rehearsed a week and this, that, and the other. Vince, so in TV, same thing. Same very weird analogy. The writers are in California in the writer's room, which I go to visit because I want to see what it looks like, because I want to see what their day-to-day is like. But most people don't. So all you have is this vision of a room called the writer's room. And they're in LA. We're shooting in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And the writer, they never come down. I'm doing Revolution. Eric Kripke in the second season just has come down for 3 or 4 days. That's just the way it works. Like, if you're a writer and this is your baby, you created it, wouldn't you want to be there? Yeah, kind of odd, right? But he has to deal with 6 writers. And they've got to do something that's called crack the story. Break the story in the room with index cards and figure out what all these characters are doing. So they live their lives in the room. If you want to reach them, you've got to call the room. If there's a line that I don't want to say, like tomorrow, I'll be on the set as soon as I get off the plane, 9:10, go right to the set. If there's a line that I'm reading on the plane tonight or learning on my way back, the lines are in the car, because I always keep my stuff close to me. It's sort of like the kid who keeps his homework under the pillow. I'm very conscientious. But so I'll have to call before I change the line, unless you're seasoned enough and respected enough that they don't mess with you. And the script supervisor will know. She'll, like the first year, the script supervisor said to me, well, you can say whatever you want, because they respect me. I said, well, I don't really want to say whatever I want, because that's what he wrote or she wrote, and they're getting the credit for that. And if they write direct, they have to get the credit for direct. And if they write good stuff, they got to get the credit for good stuff. But if I can't say it, that's my worry. That's my problem. Then I got to fix it. I don't want to make your words better. I want it to be the intention with which you wrote it. Because you got to stand, or fall by your own hand. I would like everything to be better. Unfortunately, Revolution is a good show, but it's not a great show like Breaking Bad. So, the mood on the set, fantastic. Because no one was really looking to top each other or to be better than. Every driver, every lighting person, everyone knew the story that week. And that tells you something. Like when someone stops at the end of a take and it's a grip or a gaffer, and they look at me and they just go, oh my goodness. That's when I know, because they see it all. They've seen so many performances. So Brian's always joking. Brian's a comic. Cranston is like a fool. He's a fool. He's a great actor, and I respect him even more because he's just such a fool. You know, he pranks. He's fun. You know, he drops him when he has to. He doesn't take it too seriously. And in a way, it's the antithesis of me. And I like it because it kind of loosened me up. But I go in there like that. I'm like tunnel vision. You know, 401, we came off a 3 or 4 month hiatus. Everything, it was basically, and I'm sorry I'm cursing so much, but it was basically, the only word to say it, it was chaos. It was a clusterfuck. You know, and the physical motion of everything, I don't say a word in Box Cutter. And we had a new costume designer. And she got me a size 11 rubber boots. And I got to stand in blood. And I got to make a move for somebody in blood. And I said, okay, so, and I was very quiet the whole time. And I say, I'm swimming in the boots and I'm swimming on the floor. And I've got to do this move that's unexpected and very, very fast and very physical. And she wouldn't change my boots. And I went, what sense does that make? Now, I don't want to fight with her because I'll get like, you know, first of all, I'm playing this guy. And I got a box cutter in my hand. I look at her and I go, you need to change the boots. And she gives me pushback. And I'm like, really? So I look on the rack over there and there are a pair of black boots that are a 10. And I go over and try them on. And she tells me I can't have them because they're Brian's. I said, Brian's not in the scene. It doesn't matter. Those are Brian's boots. I'm like, Brian. She wouldn't give me the boots. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's in a small little world. Lovely Blanca, Mexican costume assistant, got in her car, rode down to the fish shop and got me the right size boots and bought them back. You know, it's an analogy for like the way we think in our lives sometimes. What's immediate, what's mine, what's yours. We think that, you know, let's play it safe. You know, I'm sorry, I'm sliding in a little bit of my stuff in here. Yeah. We become penny wise and pound foolish. The day I realized I had so much to do and wanted to direct, and I have 3 scripts I wanted to do, but I have no time to get them going, was the day I realized I needed help. And yet, I was told, you can't afford it. And I went, oh, how does that work? I have these great ideas for things, but I can't afford to implement them because I've told myself that. So I said, so what? I get an assistant that costs me $25,000 a year. That's cheap. Most ad men, ad women cost $40,000 a year, right? And tax on that, all this stuff, thinking small, and try to do it myself when I'm spending 3 hours on the phone just trying to arrange my travel. And I realized, no, you're worth it. The people that you want to serve up, the universe, I want to tell spiritual stories. I did a film called Gospel Hill, won 11 awards across the film festival circuit. It was a real gem of a film. I want to tell films that make films that are smart, that have spirit in them, that allow us to be entertained, but that aren't all completely about violence and don't get us hooked into that violent nature of what we see on the news all the time, but allow us to be in a kind of a faithful, hopeful story that's not without excitement, but that has something that connects us. And I said, I'm going to hire someone to help me. That's money well spent because I deserve it. It's like you have an idea, but then you go, oh, somebody thought about that. How do you know? How do you know somebody thought about that? Is it you say that so that because you don't believe that you have the right to think of something new, or that you are expressing the complete part of yourself, or is it that you don't want to do the work to find out if somebody already thought about that? You see, we're all full of ideas that come to us, and that is not coincidence. That intuition is organically you. How do people become entrepreneurs? I have a 10-year-old daughter who said to me, Papa, why am I here with my mother and sisters living in Red Hook, New York, when I want to be a designer, an actress, an expresser, a connector? Why am I here? So I spoke to Mama, and Mama says that if I want to be an actor, you're the master, I should be with you. So I'm writing you this email, 2-page email. just to express my thoughts and feelings. I want to be a designer. Oh, did I mention I've made 10 YouTube videos? Oh, and did I mention I have designs for clothing? Yesterday she sent me a shirt she made. It's off the hook. So, Papa, I live here, and the problem is there are no performing arts schools here. There are no schools for fine arts for someone who's 10. So would you do some investigation for me? And so I did. And she came down to Austin. I got her into 2 different schools to shadow for 2 days each and to audition. She bought her YouTube movies. She wrote an essay. She did what they told her to do. She got into both schools. Both schools. See, this is where we started. Before we started looking down at our toes and going, there's nothing else for me, and I can't recreate myself because it's too late for me. I chose this. My parents gave me money to go to college for this. I've been doing it. You know what? I'm making a good living. I'm not really happy, but it's okay. I got 3 kids. I can't change it. Blah, 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 blah. That's your story. And when your story changes and you go back, and I bring up my little Ruby, because in September, she is coming to live with me in Austin, Texas. Boom. And I said to her, the road is open for you. And you are, and when we're together, the road opens for me even more. Because you become without judgment of who you are. You become without judgment of how old you are, of what you're able to achieve. You know, Sophocles, Greek scholar, writer, poet, he was also a general. He was a warrior. He was a warrior who went, a citizen warrior who went to war and lived in Greece. They would go to war all week, come home on the weekend. It's the way it was, man. Citizen soldier. That's who he was. He wrote Ajax and Philoctetes when he was 80-something years old. He became anti-war. Performed in the theater of Dionysus in Greece for the whole army. Ajax was about a man who had PTSD. He lost his mind. He went out one night with a sword and he killed all the barnyard animals thinking they were the generals because he was a great, great warrior who had all these warrior friends, but he wasn't labeled the number 1 warrior. He was a friend of Achilles, and Achilles was greater than him, and he wanted to be the man. And after Achilles was killed, they didn't label him the man. He lost his mind. He killed the animals. That is a capital crime in Greece. It's murder. You cannot kill the animals, right? He went crazy. He went out to the sand dunes. He laid on his sword, and he killed himself. The story is about suicide. And we performed this story for soldiers all across the United States to talk to them about their PTSD. But the point is, Sophocles at 80 reinvented himself once again. A man of war, a killer, a chaplain, a priest, then became a writer to pass on what he learned and came to know. So we all have our own ministry for each other to share, whether it be through entertainment, whether it be through writing, whether it be through philanthropy, whether it be whatever that is, it's there for us. And to think that we are unable to change our circumstance or to allow ourselves to learn something new is the end of our road for our journey. And so I always try to slide in a little bit of, what I feel I've learned and what I'd like to continue learning and share with people. I went to Lane Community College in Utah. There were all people who were over 25. Some came to the room with babies. Some had more than one child in the room. And I learned that it was a college that was really, really huge and that it was a school that was for people who were reinventing themselves and getting another degree. So I became a director out of that same notion. And I feel like I just want to share with you that always provide yourself with the ability, no matter what you do now, to be creative in what you do. Because that is the juice of life, truly.
I think we have time for 1 or 2 more questions. Gentleman in the back table right there who had his hand up before.
with all your roles in both television and film, what do you enjoy the most, and what do you feel gets you closer to the character?
You know, I keep this little black composition book. When I went to school, we had those black marble books. Yeah, your name goes on the front and all this other information about you goes inside. I do a lot of research for what I do. I pride myself on it because I just want to, part of me just wants to be a regular guy. I've always wanted to do a lot of different things in my life. I would have been a chiropractor if I hadn't, or an archaeologist really interested in me. And so I just, what I try to do is just connect myself to being human in a role. And when I did Bob Roberts, I went and spent time down at the Cerebral Palsy Institute in Manhattan, and I stayed there for like a couple of weeks with people who, it took me 3 days to understand what they were saying, some of them, and to figure out how they'd move their bodies around was amazing to me with this kind of palsy. I'm committed to, part of why I act is because I wanted to do a lot of things in my life, and I didn't see an opportunity that I'd be able to achieve all of them. And so being an actor has taught me about law. It's taught me about medicine. It's taught me about crystal meth. You know, I've lived a lot of lifetimes in one life, and maybe it's the lifetimes I've lived that are coming through in this life, but I don't just fake it. I'm a real curious person. So I really feel so deeply in gratitude to have been an actor and to have been an actor the way I am an actor. Because it's allowed me, as an actor, you got to know a lot about a lot of things if you're really that kind of truthful actor. And it's the inquisitive nature with which I conduct myself in life that has moved into my acting and allowed me to sort of, play these people that I would never ordinarily be able to play.
You mentioned your daughter, you said the word divine, you used the word consciousness one time. You also called your ex a bitch, so.
Well, again, I think I called my girlfriend a bitch. Just want to clarify that. And she's not a bitch. No. I was raised in the Roman Catholic Church and really believed that I would be a priest, to be honest with you. I was an altar boy. I felt really, really interested in Catholicism and the life of Jesus Christ. I got crushed by what I saw in the church, and it destroyed me. And I almost went through with it anyway. And then I started I read a book called The Religions of Man and started to look at different attitudes and different modalities. I went to India at the behest of my brother and started studying yoga. And I became a bhakti yogi, which was a yoga of singing and praise, because I wanted to really honor and worship the divine God and goddess through my word and my song. And then I learned that I was really kind of manic physically. Like I run 5 miles a day. I got off the plane for 17 hours coming from Dubai, and I ran 6 miles today to still the body so I could sit for a while and meditate. And so now I have a yoga practice, which I really love, which is good to me because it gets me out of the way. First we got to get out of our way. And, if you think you're doing it, just realize that it's doing it without you. So that's a good analogy for me because I always wanted to be the hero in life. I was always a people pleaser, wanted to save people, made me feel good, all these things. And now I realize that I just want to be. And in order to be, with my breath, I have to look at people clearly. I realized that that's what I talk about when I talk about being conditioned. I learned how to be judgmental, and now I don't judge anybody. What you do is what you do, how you get there, you get there. I want to enjoy the presence of people who are present. And so I take the best and leave the rest. But I do believe in living a conscious life, because I believe it helps all of us if we're all in that space. We're all here conscious about, being involved in creativity. I can feel the energy in the room, and I love it. I mean, you may think you've come to see a movie and hear me say nothing. Because I ain't saying nothing, baby. Because people who've ordained and much deeper than me have said it before me, but I'm on this place in my life that I want to help people, and first myself. I want to allow and encourage and empower me to be my best self. And I want to extend that to everyone I'm around. I'm attracted to people who are energetic, who are positive, not negative. And I really do believe that I have a million stories, man. I could go on forever because when I get reminded of this, it just comes up for me, these stories. You know, we are, what we think grows. It's just so clear to me. It's just so clear, and it's really kind of simple. It's so simple that we miss it. It really is. You know, if I'm going through it again right now. I have a plan for my summer, my hiatus. I wanted this. I said it. Don't forget to voice it, to write it. See, because you can tap it, but when it's written, it's your energy. When you say it, it immediately flows to the universe, and the universe wants you to be happy, successful, and in service. Firstly, if you say it, the universe hears it and allows it to be. So I sit and meditate and I say it. And I don't say it just for me because it's what I want, because eventually there's no pleasure, no pain. You give away your desire. I want everybody to be their best self. I want you to get the gig and you to get the gig and you to be, I mean, this is how it works. But if you think it, it grows, it's out there. I'm going through it right now. I want to have a big, rich experience in a film this summer. Rich creatively, rich economically. I want abundance to come into my life. Right? Who doesn't want that? But do we ever say it? Visualize it. See it. I see myself walking through the door, baby, every single day. And I see myself walking to the door not alone. I see me walking to the door and holding it for all y'all. All you, come on, baby. Because you know what I mean? That makes me so happy. But, you know, it's that, and all the other thoughts are going to come in and challenge you, and, oh, I'm not good enough, and, oh, my God, and what will they think? And I'm all overgrown. My cat came in here with a full-ass gray beard, blah, 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 blah. You know, I'm shooting now. We judge ourselves, how we do this, how we do that, what we look like, what we say, you know, and we're so locked in. And when you allow it to flow and allow it to go, then your life changes. It just changes. It's just like it becomes butter, you know? And so I'm mindful. And if I go a day without sitting praying to my God or meditating, I miss it. And my brother told me a while ago, be careful what you ask for. The priest told me years ago, be careful what you ask for. Because, you know, I'm asking like it's all good and I can all be, you know, I used to act like I'm spiritual and it looks good and all. Man, now, if I don't sit for a day and I'm not thinking about the divine, that's why I carry these beads with me. It's a reminder, the goodness in people. It's got me now. It's done. I looked up a few years ago and went, I'm in trouble now because I don't care anymore. I care about you more than I care about myself. I care about really serving up the universe because the universe needs us. Temptation. She said, how do you say so deep in the... I love what I do. Film is a meditation. My work is a meditation. I realize this has always been the case. I love what I do so much that, you know, I don't sit there with my iPad in between scenes. I'm trying to serve up the writer, get the fluidity of the poetry in my voice, finding what has been laid down as a template for me, by me, and then and given to me through the writers and creating it. My work is a true prayer. I mean, how else could it be, you know, that it's been 48 years I've been doing this.
Well, as a writer, I like to hear that. But in 48 years, I wanted to ask you your insights. How have you seen opportunities for African-American actors and directors change, and how have you seen the attitudes change of people who are doing the hiring?
It's really changed. It really has. I really feel like there's an open door that's happened for a couple of years now, and it's just extending itself. This role on Revolution, a gentleman asked me about Revolution. The stage direction was he was a white, Southern, genteel gentleman. And, you know, and who's playing that role? Me. The attitudes have changed with the respect for humanity. And I really feel like it's changed in all directions. I no longer think that there are the theys in my business. And, in our world, we still have folks who are not like-minded and not open. But that's okay, you know. I understand that they've been conditioned in a different way than I have. When I walk into a Hollywood studio, I understand there's many more reasons that aren't going to get me the job than my color. But I do believe if it's for me, it'll be for me. But it has changed, without a doubt. We want to know more about each other. We want to know more about how we live and what makes us happy, no matter what lifestyle we choose. And the more we respect that, and the more we know about what it does, it serves us all up. And I think we're getting smart in that way.
Great. How's your energy holding up? One more question?
Yeah, sure, I'm good.
Right there.
I was just about to cry. I'm glad you stopped me. I'm a real oddball. It's a great, great question. I mentioned my marble notebook. I don't put a voice to the character. I read the script and I try to hear what the writer's written and hear what that voice is behind the writing. Writers are very smart. They're intellectual. Sometimes we have different kinds of people who think here, and they're very, very smart and very intellectual people, and people who come from their heart. I'm like one of those people. Pretty smart, but it's kind of a blend, and I respect both. So when I get a part, I read it, and I look at the words, and I see how the words are fit together, and sometimes they're not put together the way I would put them together, my voice, but I respect the way they have been layered and connected. And then I read them, and I, before they're ever spoken, they're like I can hear them in my mind, and then I start to whisper. Like I allow the mental, auditory, and visual words that come together to come into a whisper. And I whisper those lines for days. I just kind of whisper them to get the cadence. And then from the whisper comes my voice, which blends with it, which changes it. And then comes more of my voice and more of the knowledge as I built the building blocks of the character. And then all of a sudden, and it sounds weird, it's funky, the words don't feel right, they don't sound right. And then one day, it's like a nice jacket that someone's been sewing on without my knowledge, been taking it in and tailoring it. And then all of a sudden, I go, oh, that's the right voice. I hear it. And it just gives me goosebumps because I go, that's his voice. Like with Gus, Gus was a whole accent thing. It was a whole had to speak Spanish. I wanted to be Chilean. It's not Puerto Rican. I've done Puerto Rican Spanish, spoke some Puerto Rican Spanish, but it's different. It's Chilean. And I thought a part of my father is in Gus, very proper, very old school, had a lot of morals. You know what I mean? It's the kind of old school human being who, just would tell his children how hard he worked for them to be here. And you have to respect that. When he tells Walt, is you're not like me at all. You never, never, never hire someone who has an addiction, who's a dope addict. That's going to compromise everything for you. He's telling Walt, you don't have the same integrity I have, is what he's saying. You may think you do, but we're not at all alike. So there's that, I like that old school value because it can't, look, I tell this about when we get to talking, man, don't let me start preaching. The truth is the truth. And we are slick and wily, and that's the mind that's wily. It wants to justify what you do and say. We know what's right and wrong. In fact, I tell my children there is no right and wrong, but you can't really tell them that all the time. But you know when it feels right. You know when the truth is there. If you've got it in your gut, you feel it, you know it, and then you go, oh, damn, I don't fit into that. So then you start to try to dance around it, figure it out. Okay, I can make this work. That's where the white lie comes from. You know when you're in the right business. You know when you're doing the right thing. You know when you had a thought that is like, man, if I just took this, nobody would know. Let me just take this. This purple chair is really, nobody's going to see me. Let me just take this shit. You know what I mean? You know when you have that thought and you go, why do I not deserve to go, hey, dude, how much for that chair? Right? I mean, I want that chair. I said this the other day. I'm going to tell you all right now. Ask for what you want. Why don't we do that? I need $16 million to make this next movie. I met Warren Buffett. You know what I did the day before yesterday? I have been thinking about this for days. And I got my answer really quickly, and it's all right. I wrote Warren Buffett an email. I tracked him down. It was a great practice. And I said, Warren, I'm making a movie about abolitionist John Brown. I met you here. Here's the photograph. We liked each other's hats. We had this conversation. I said, I liked your shoes. He said, what shoes? I said, the running shoes you make. He looked at me like, I said, Warren, you own a company called New Balance. You make the Pure Flow running shoe. I use it every day. Oh, he said to me, that's my company. I said, yeah, that's your company. Among 200 other companies. Little did you remember. But I said, thank you for the running shoe. When do we ask for what we want? It's so absolutely simple and easy. You have to know and be empowered that you have the right and deserve to ask the universe for exactly what you want, where you want to be, how you want it to happen, what you want to come of it. Because in life, there is intention. And whether you realize it or not, if you don't make a choice is made for you. You make a conscious choice. You move toward the intention of what you desire. And the universe knows if your intention is inclusive of all of us, or if your intention is selfish. And I'm telling you, when you have the right intention for your life, for your children, for your families, for your film, for your work, there's no door that will not open for you. It's completely your intention. And I believe that's what helps us to be comfortable and in our own skin and in service to each other. That's what, you know what's happening in the world now? The greed has become prevalent. And the corporations have been greedy. And they've taken too much. And now they have to pay. The folks who put on this festival, yeah, I know, I get that in the theater. Just give me 2 seconds. The folks who put on what is their name? Who are the folks who put on this festival? Tiki, like a tiki hut. Tiki, my Norwegian friends. They're doing something really great for the community. Out of what? Out of a love. All right? So why can't we all give the gift that we have? What are you able to give? I'm not talking about money. What energetically can you share and you give? What is your intention for this community? The folks who volunteer here, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, give it up. Gotta give it up. We thank the wonderful sponsors who have given to this festival. Thank you. We thank the Tikis for keeping this going and lending their spirit and their resources to have this happen. Thank you. All of the people who've allowed us to share this evening and who've had me come here, I am in deep gratitude. And when we share that kind of gratitude and love, then we are also empowering each other. Thank you for your questions and your interviews. This is what it's about. And this will extend each and every one of you and all of us and this festival to live on for many years to come, to inspire our children, to inspire the community, to show stories of other lands and other places. The mayors will come here and they'll go, wow, that's how they do it in China. Let's get on that. I mean, you know, I was a young boy when I went to the Amish country. And when I realized that all the family of Amish were one family, and that when you got married, everyone came and built your barn, everyone came and put up your house, and they gave you a good start in life, I went, wow, isn't that an amazing thing? So when we go back to our old values, our old morals, and some good hard sweat that we give up, and our intention becomes about each other, then that same gift and blessing will come to us. And we will move forward in togetherness in a newfound world. First, we got to use and hire all of our intelligent people to question our corporations and why they've been greedy. Not even why. Forget why. It's past. It's gone. Change your ways. Get on the new page. Get on the good foot, as we used to say in the South. Get on the good foot, baby, and change it, because a corporation is a sum of who? All of us. Our government is a sum of what? All of us. We have a right, we have good intentions, and now we must make that known and change the world from inside out. Truly, truly, truly.
I want to thank you for a captivating, illuminating evening. I think you have a second career as a motivational speaker, if you so desire. But it's been great, and I think we're all very grateful for your presence here. So.
Thanks for having me. Truly. Thank you, thank you, thank you.